Welcome back, Purrfect Peeps, to Purrfect.dev. Today we are talking about delivering digital content with GraphCMS, and we have a special guest with us. Welcome, Scott Spence. What's up, Scott?
How's it going?
How are you doing over there?
All good. Yeah, the sun is out after a month of not being out. So everyone in the UK is now wearing shorts, flip-flops, and T-shirts and getting burnt.
Sounds
it's
nice,
only for
though,
the next 2 days, and then it'll go as is British weather.
A lot of rain over there, I guess.
We went from like 80 degrees down to like 30 again. It's been all over the place.
It's crazy here.
So Scott is a developer advocate at GraphCMS based in Kent, UK. He has over 10 years of previous experience working for large corporate organizations in the finance and insurance sector as a VBA developer. His second career dev started out as a web developer in 2018. He worked in government digital transformation. And then on the side, he loves working with Svelte. And I don't know, we in our description, we put enjoys, but then crossed out, and it says he permanently goes running, which is pretty much where I'm at. So that's pretty sweet. And listening to drum and bass on Uber. Yeah, I got it in there, right?
Yeah, you did. You got
we were thinking before the show, bass, bass.
That's going to come up a bit later, too. We're going to get more bass.
So, Scott, anything else to add in there that I'm totally missing out on?
Brilliant. No, you've nailed it there, Alex. There is a lot. I'm not sure that. I need to get like a good bio, but that's like my life story in a couple of paragraphs. So, no, you got it all there.
So, are you a self-taught dev then, since you're a second career dev?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, I started about 2016. Got into the whole 100 Days of Code movement, and I've been pretty much at it ever since.
That's awesome.
That's really great. So, a little bit more about your background in like VBA and government work, if you can even talk about it. Was that traditionally like you were doing kind of like desktop based work, or was it still web? What did that look like?
So for the VBA stuff, it was pretty much like my first proper job, where I was lucky enough to just get in to be like a filing clerk, I think you call it. I was like an admin assistant.
Okay.
And I was just helping around in like a finance department of a bank. And I started helping out with putting together the management information reports, and got a lot more comfortable with using Excel, making it do things, and then into VBA. Forward on 10 years, I sort of made a career out of it. So I always, when I first discovered that, I was like, wow, you can make it do things, which is pretty neat. And it's just the same with web.
So just working with spreadsheets and things of that sort.
Yeah. So it was just it was either a way to display some content which would come in like a CSV to a certain endpoint, or it would be to show stats. So there's a lot of like pivot tables and like lots of graphing stuff. And VBA still is super powerful. I think there's like some stats saying it's still the most popular programming language there is, because everyone's doing it. Everyone's like using a macro for something or other in Excel. So it's really cool. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. That was.
So you talked a minute about the 100 days of code. That's kind of what started to draw you in more to like the front end side, or JavaScript in general.
So I was sort of like a contractor towards the end of through 2016, and it wasn't that the work was drying up, but I did notice a lot of it was moving off to the browser. Office 365 is all in the browser now. So I thought it's not going to be like that for much longer. I mean, it's been 10 years and it still pretty much is, but I could tell you horror stories about lots of banks, lots of financial institutions just all run off of Excel, and I'm pretty sure it's still that way. But there was always a lot of movement from it going to the browser. So I thought I needed to reskill and get into the area. And when I first started doing it, there was I thought Python, because that was like a very, very sort of data sort of driven sort of language, and lots of people automate stuff with Python, and there was automate the boring stuff with Python, and I think they're hooked into Excel directly, and you could do lots of automations with that. And I think I got into the like the creating website side of it with, I think it was Django or Flask, and it had this crazy sort of folder structure with everything. It was really like crazy nested folder structures. And I found it really difficult to sort of get my head around. And this was sort of me still trying to find my way. And then I read something from Quincy Larson, and it was just, I think it was just better on JavaScript. And it quite goes into detail about JavaScript is everywhere, and it's, a skill you should have. So I thought, right, okay, just go down that route, and did loads of things with Free Code Camp. If you look at my CV or my LinkedIn, it still shows me as as I'm still studying there, because I never actually finished the full curriculum.
Those things are
but
long.
It's great. It is, yeah, and there's they've added a load more to the curriculum now as well. So it's I'd recommend that to anyone getting into web development. It's just Free Code Camp, and it covers just such a wide variety of things now that you can't go wrong with picking that, I'd say. And yeah, the 100 days of code thing was just something to help you just code every day. And at the time, the 100 days of code hashtag on Twitter wasn't filled up with ads and spam, and it was a good place, and lots of people help. I mean, it still is, but you really have to sort of dig through it to not bump into people spamming stuff on there, basically. So that was, I wouldn't say it was life changing, but it did help me a lot with studying. And that was tough as well, doing a full-time job. So I'd be doing like the hustle culture thing, getting up at silly o'clock just so I could get in the couple of hours practice I'd need in the morning. Because I've got a family, I wasn't really doing it at night time. So it was just any sort of spare bit of time I could get to study it, really. So I would definitely recommend that to anyone.
I feel like Dev Twitter is really supportive if you put yourself out there, and overall there is some badness, but overall it's really good. So to kind of steer us back to our topic on hand, which is GraphCMS. So you did that for a couple of years. So now you're with GraphCMS. Can you explain a little bit about what GraphCMS is, what it does?
Yep. Okay. So GraphCMS is like structured content for anything which can display data. So not just for websites, mobile apps, anything which can consume an API. Then you can use GraphCMS for your back end, as it were. It gives you like a GraphQL endpoint, so you can make any queries you want to that endpoint, regardless of the size of the query. But obviously, there's going to be sort of performance implications depending on how you're using it. But it's a really cool abstraction on top of GraphQL, where you have your GraphCMS account, where you can build out your schema, your content types for your all of your data. It's got a really good builder on there, so you can have markdown fields, rich text, all the sort of things you'd get from a modern day CMS.
I was going to ask, you have full control over your schema and what kind of data types you're using?
If you can define it with the UI, there's also a management SDK as well, so you can do it programmatically. So if you, let's say, have like your production stage, you can copy that stage and start working on a new feature, let's say, and you can merge it back in. But for like data migrations to that, I don't know a great deal about that. I'm going to have to find out about that. But you can sort of create all of your schema with the management SDK as well. So it's pretty flexible in that regard.
Okay.
I noticed when like walking through the template, and I think I can bring it up here real quick. Let me share my screen for those who are watching on video. Maybe things have changed around again.
While he's getting that pulled up, I heard you say GraphQL, so it's called GraphCMS. Is it just
Yes.
GraphQL or GraphQL?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So yeah, it's I mean, some services allow you to have either the REST API or a GraphQL API. This is purely just you make your content model with your schema, and then that is then generated and available to you as a GraphQL endpoint.
Okay.
You may or may not know this, but when you go in, let me see, where's the create the CMS side of this? There is a way to do this. Let's select a plan. I was trying to get back to the point where there's templates, and I can't remember where it's at.
So just go to the G on the top corner there.
Okay.
There you go.
There we
and then
go.
You can create a new template here, yeah.
So something that I noticed, so they have these cool templates out here. And so all of this is hosted as like so it's a headless CMS, of course, GraphCMS is. But the neat part is you can also, when you're creating those, there's different regions. I was kind of curious if you happen to know, like, if this is on a backbone like GCP or AWS, and what that
it's
looks like.
AWS. All the infrastructure's on AWS, yeah. So
really are you able to like, once you pick, like, if for some reason I'm in US East and we get clients over in Asia, are you able to move your content once it's up there over there?
That is a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. Okay. So maybe go to your.
Geez, sorry.
Yeah, maybe go to your first blog template there, sure. And then go to the settings. So that's 1, 2, 3, bottom left-hand corner here.
Getting closer.
Your settings there, and I'm guessing
locales.
No, that's for languages. So you can set different locales, endpoints. I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on that, Alex. That's a good question. No worries.
I saw it pop in, and I was like, "That's kind of interesting." And we can dive into this further, since there's a CDN built in, correct?
Yes.
So theoretically, even though you have like a base location, that CDN should deliver it around the globe, cached to the edge anyways.
Yes, theoretically.
That's how it's supposed to work.
So yeah, as we're kind of talking through this, I can show a little bit of it off too. So I know that, and if you want to do the BaaS thing at this point, it's
backend as a service.
As a service.
Yeah, I mean, someone coined it the other day, and I just thought, okay, it's pretty much just a backend as a service, which is what this is. So, I mean, from this panel here, this is like the first screen you are met with as a new user. You can either create a new project from scratch here, or you can use one of the templates we've already put together, and these come populated with content. So you can get, if you notice under the name there, there's a little check for include template content. If you just leave that checked, it leaves it's just some Lorem Ipsum content. This is just so you can get up and running as fast as possible. So once you've done that with, I think that's the blog starter template, you can then start amending the schema yourself with, once you pick your plan. So just before we go into this, what you said about changing your like your CDN regions, if you're like an enterprise client, and the same goes with what infrastructure you use as well, you can work with the GraphCMS team to use your own infrastructure along with GraphCMS. But I think that's in the enterprise pricing tier.
So you can have your own hosted version of this. So if you
Yes.
if you are like government or something that you have those requirements, you can host on-prem then.
As we're waiting on this to prepare the project, I saw a lot of different things there as far as blog, e-commerce and stuff. So who is GraphCMS really geared towards? Is it more of an enterprise or just like a regular developer by themselves? Or
at the moment, there's a lot of enterprise customers. I think you'll see them on the GraphCMS page. But this is why I'm here as well. We're trying to get the I wouldn't say adoption, just make sure everyone knows it's around. I've known of GraphCMS since 2018, and it's one of the first YouTube videos I put up onto YouTube, and I was super impressed with you could just query a GraphQL endpoint, get data into your blog, and at the time I thought it was great, and that was 2.5 years ago now, I guess, and they've added a lot more features now than there was then, but it's just your endpoint. You can go grab whatever you need. You can also send mutations now as well. So there's you could put together like a sample application where you want to submit something you could use the GraphQL mutation, add your own API access key, and then from your front end in Next.js, Gatsby, Svelte, push that off, and then that will go into like a draft stage on the CMS for like a content editor to review and approve.
and had Steve Carell there on the front page and a little description about him. One of America's most versatile comics.
I think my wife was listening to the lady, what are they called? It's the Lady Something podcast for The Office, and they're always shocked he never won a Emmy or anything.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised
Yeah,
too.
it's kind of crazy. Sorry, side note.
Sidetracked.
So yeah, as we're kind of looking at this, I can do nothing but compare to like sanity.io. So one of the interesting things, like we're still talking about structured content, of course, so things are linking together the same way Sanity does. But the one difference I think out of the gate is that Sanity offers kind of their own studio solution where you can extend it using
it's hosted,
so is that something that you can start to do on this side, or?
I think it's on the feature roadmap, but nothing as of yet. This is so with this in State, you can have like roles and permissions for individual users. So if I was just like a content editor, let's say, over on the left here, I'd have a lot less options. I wouldn't be able to access the GraphQL API. I'd just be looking at the content and be able to edit and amend the stuff in there. So we've got the schema over here on the left. Yeah, the next one down, it'll be like the content editor view. So you can have and then down on the left, you've got all the different content types. So you've got your author, pages, posts, and whatnot there. So with that, you could put all of this into your own front end, but I think it'd be a lot of work to, if you're just displaying stuff and saving it, then that's absolutely possible like this, but it's not your own studio, which you would edit like you do with Sanity.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think with this as well. Sorry, Alex.
You hit on one major thing I'm kind of curious about, the different role setups and kind of the pricing around that, because the biggest struggle that I always have in Sanity is you get 3 users and it's not necessarily like tied role-wise to like the editing experience. Can you talk a little bit about like if Brittney and I are working on a website and we want to deliver it to a client, and that client has, their back-end person who's doing content and stuff like that, but we don't necessarily want them messing with the schema. So we can set them up as a different role entity at that point, and they would come in here and actually edit the content side of it, and then it would update our Next.js or our Gatsby site or whatever we need on the front.
Yes, yeah. So you can use webhooks to trigger a deploy or a rebuild on publish. With regards to the actual like granular permissions on each role, I haven't got into that a great deal myself, but I know it is an option. So that's quite cool. And there's also a couple of features which are in the pipeline but aren't being released yet, relating to content-based permissions as well. Okay, cool.
And then as far as the asset side, so a lot of again Sanity, a lot of the back-end CMSs out there. Agility, I think, also has this. When you load up assets, similar to like a Cloudinary, where you can start to change the different photos and things like that. Do you know if that's a capability where I can say, don't deliver this as a PNG, deliver it as a WebP or something like that?
So I'm pretty sure you can do that with the GraphQL endpoint, and you can specify in there what you want from that level. It is its own CDN for images. You could use Cloudinary for additional stuff as well on top of that, which GraphCMS doesn't support, like videos and like GIFs, let's say. So there is the option as well to use that as part of it.
Do you have to pick which one you want to serve, or does it choose for you which is best?
I'm just about to do a video on using Gatsby image with it, so I'll probably find out then. And I don't know now. I'm going to presume if you're using something like Gatsby or Next Image, then that will help you. But I don't know at the moment.
Yeah, no worries. It seems like as headless CMSs go, there's a lot of solutions out there. Is there anything specific to the GraphCMS like flow or technology base that's any different or gives it kind of an edge on these other headless CMSs?
Well, I would say the speed at which you can get started with, you don't need to set up your like a GraphCMS, a GraphQL server or database. That's all handled for you. So that's all extracted away as the backend as a service. And you can use GraphQL as soon as you sort of publish your schema, make it public, then you can start using the endpoint any which way you like. So that's pretty flexible. There's like also like filtering and like search filtering for your front end. So you can do that with the API too. It's really useful.
I feel like
I'm sorry, Brittney.
If you know you want GraphQL out of the get-go, it's probably one of the best choices because it's kind of like GraphQL is a first-class citizen there.
It is, absolutely,
like, yeah. So I feel like that's a really good choice. Where would you send someone if they want to start learning GraphCMS? What are some of the options for that?
So for GraphCMS, we've got the blog, and we've got a lot of resources on getting started. I've just done one with getting started with SvelteKit, so you can spin up a blog quite quickly using that. As long as you've got somewhere which you can display your data from an API, then you can get going.
Is that on the
quickly,
GraphCMS blog?
Yeah. So I think it's like the third post down now. Getting started with SvelteKit and GraphCMS. So we're putting together a lot of content like that. There's also the GraphCMS examples repo over on GitHub, and that has lots of examples for all the different frameworks, Next.js, Gatsby, Sapper, SvelteKit, and how to do specific things with those. So I just recorded a video for using MDX with GraphCMS. I'll be doing one on the Gatsby file system route API, or dynamic routes as it should be called. And just done one on SvelteKit as well, just getting set up with SvelteKit. So there's a load of sort of accompanying videos now to go with the GraphCMS examples repo over on GitHub. Well, that's what I'm working my way through at the moment.
Yeah.
Cool. Can we talk a minute about, and I haven't dove into it far enough yet, so the management SDK, is that available to the public right now?
Yeah, it's available to anyone. I think it was in the documentation, and it's still something I need to get stuck into myself. So this is good for, like I said, if you're building out a new feature and you want to have like a record of it somewhere, you can do that in source control with the management SDK, and then you can just hit a button and it'll go and create that for you.
What are the languages for the SDK? Is it just Next.js or is it just all API?
I think.
Did I just say Next.js? Oh,
You did.
Yeah. I think TypeScript and JavaScript.
Next is on the brain.
I meant to say Node.js, and then even that wasn't what I wanted.
So where is it in resources?
What else would it be in besides Node? JavaScript, like a
here.
Other backend language.
I kept missing it here.
Yeah. So the back end, all of the heavy lifting is done with Go on the back end, but I think for the management SDK, like you said, I think it's in Node, in JavaScript. Let me find.
Okay, I see. I think this is probably when I was messing around with it. You need to actually add this piece, the management API access. Cool. So you can just do a little npm install, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Seems like it's really easy to get up and running.
Yeah, I was really curious, like if you didn't want to necessarily use, even though it's great, like don't get me wrong, I think the backend as a service out there is fantastic, but if you wanted to write your own, you could go to town with it, it looks like.
Yes, yeah.
So one of our struggles in a lot of our projects is the users, they don't want the complication of getting into a separate backend as a service. So one of the things that we've been looking at is like TinaCMS, for instance, where you can stay within your own page. And I think in order to do something like that with GraphCMS, you would almost need this management SDK to be able to take Tina's updates essentially for those different forms or documents or whatever they call them, and then push those up to it.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you know James Perkins. He's recently started with TinaCMS. So he should be getting some good content out there for that.
I've got to get James on the podcast.
Yeah, he's a nice dude. There was Tina's been around for a while now, and I remember when I saw it, I was like, "This is awesome! I'm going to get this into my blog, and I'm just going to write my blogs in line, and that'll be that." But I think, well, I hit some stumbling blocks along the way. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I just went back to using Markdown and like my Git workflow. But it looks really cool. And this is like the one sort of killer question anyone asks is, do I get a WYSIWYG? And do I get a WYSIWYG editor? And I remember back when I was at Zazi, the government digital transformation place, that one of my first sort of duties was to evaluate a load of CMSs, and GraphCMS was one of the first. And I'm like, look, we've got a GraphQL endpoint here. We can, just define what data we want where. and it just got ignored for some reason. They went with some crazy system, which I'd rather not talk about. But the one question was, can we see, the changes if we're editing them? And there was some other, I can't remember what the other one was at the time, but there was this one where it looked a lot like TinaCMS, and they might have rebranded from this to Tina, where it basically just writes a massive JSON object after you make all your changes, and then that's what you use for your schema. So it was just a way of getting that JSON object back to your CMS for it to say, oh, okay, this is how everything looks now, and do it like that. But this, I think a lot of places are catching up with it, like Sanity. They have their own, I don't know what they call it, but it's used, if you use it with Next.js, you can have your real-time previews with Sanity. I know a couple of people who've done it, and I was quite interested to see it working, but obviously not that interested to do it myself just yet. But that is the one feature which WordPress has, and it's always been there, and everyone just wants that now. They're like, well, I want to be able to do this on the fly and see how it looks. But the way how quickly you can do something with like a Jamstack framework and get stuff turned around quickly, it's not really much of an issue. Where you can have stuff like Vercel, you have a deploy on each push, and you can just use that. Back at my last place, we used to use that all the time, and we just iterate through tons and tons of like these URLs to be approved before going into like the main branch. So
on Netlify, that might like cause your build minutes to run out for your free build minutes.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily want to be rebuilding your whole site every time. I feel like that's something we keep running into with the Jamstack, is everything is separate, which is nice that you can bring in whichever piece you want, but it separates things almost to a point to where it's hard to keep your content together too. So everybody wants, like, it's fine for us techie people to just go over to GraphCMS or go over to Sanity and put our stuff in. But for someone who's not technical, they want to see their site and see what their content's going to look like on their site. So I'm really excited and interested to see where TinaCMS goes, or how other services are going to start using things like Tina. Because I feel like that's where Jamstack needs to go, is we need to be able to bring it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if we want to start to like compete, and we as just Jamstack as a whole, with like Squarespace or even like Medium, or those editors that basically produce the same site that you're getting, I think that's kind of that next version. I think that's why Forestry kind of broke out Tina and said, we see this, we need this, and that's the next evolution I think we're going to go through.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think, is that all the questions we have about GraphCMS?
I think so. Anything we didn't cover, or anything you can think of you want to add, Scott?
I can't think of anything. I mean, there is obviously there's a big feature roadmap, and there's we didn't have anything big in May that was released, but we've got some stuff coming up in June, and we do stream it at the end of each month, so you can jump onto one of those if you want to find out what's going on.
Is that on Twitch or YouTube, or where's the stream at?
It's on YouTube, and it's under the GraphCMS account.
I've heard so many people moving to YouTube off of Twitch to stream now.
It's better SEO.
With StreamYard, you can do both, and I don't know. I've done a bit of both, and YouTube, it stays there. With Twitch, you got to sort of export it, and you're exporting it to YouTube anyway. So
easy to keep all in one place.
Yeah. So awesome. No new feature. I mean, I've been there. I joined 26th of April, and I'm still getting familiar with the product myself. And like I said, it's something I've used in the past, and I really enjoy using. At the moment, I'm just putting examples together for anything to use with GraphCMS. Got some sort of cool ideas for what I want to do with, do you know where you have these sites with like the crazy menu bar structure? Like, do you get Which magazine in the States, where you've got like the menu bar and it's just got like crazy amounts of subsections and stuff?
Like nesting.
Yeah. I was thinking you could sort of do something with a use relations in your content model, and then use that content model for your navbar items, and you could edit all those in your content model and get them to point to wherever you want from there, which I always thought was a pretty good, because then you're leaving that part to the content editor and whoever runs the site on which points where. As long as I'm guessing, as long as you've got a slug to point to the correct page, then that's they can group it and do whatever they want with it that way. There's also some other cool things like with voice assistants, where you could sort of put in your pre-canned responses to like a voice command. So I'd like to play about with that a bit. And there's also like stuff on mobile. Do you know Tadas Petra? I'm hoping to do a collaboration with him where we can sort of implement the use of GraphCMS with Flutter and see how that goes. Sweet. So there's loads of cool stuff I want to be doing. Yeah, and there's loads of cool stuff on the feature pipeline as well.
That's awesome.
There you go. Yeah, I put the roadmap out on our blog, so if anyone needs links to it, you should be able to find it out there. Awesome. Well, I think before I jump to our next phase of the wonderful pod, I just wanted to show off Scott's site real quick because I think it's cool. It almost looks identical to Scott, don't you think?
I thank Em Somerville. She's an Australian artist who put that together for me. So thanks, Emma.
Very cool.
Fantastic. So have you found the Easter egg at the bottom of each post if you go to writing and find a particularly short post? Yeah, that'll do.
We found the bottom, folks.
Rock bottom. So
is that too cheeky for you?
Funny.
That's just my attempt at adding a bit of whimsy to the site. So shout out to Chris Biscardi for Toast. This was done in Toast.
Oh, you did it in Toast?
Awesome. Yeah, I did it in Toast. But yeah, it's pretty cool. But looking at Scott Talinsky's stuff, he just put up something the other day where he's getting markdown posts from like a local folder. I'm like, oh, I could do that. And so I finished this in like the start of the year. I think, let's just redo it again. Let's put it on SvelteKit.
Did you put it on SvelteKit? Yeah. I've moved.
No, I'm looking to move it to that. You've moved all your stuff there, haven't you, Brittney?
I just moved one. I have not had time to work on my other sites, and the blogs, I'm kind of waiting because SvelteKit's a little finicky on Windows still. It's the pathing issues, and I don't know if it's Vite's fault. I don't even know if it's Vite or V. I don't know anymore. Okay. Scott says it's Vite now.
I say Vite like fight.
Vite like fight.
But I think it's from the French for vite.
But the Windows pathing on it is backwards. And so Windows will try to use the backward slashes and Vite uses the forward slashes, and it doesn't like native. The slug. So the slug is wrong. So
you use WSL, don't you?
I don't right now. I went off of it because I was having issues with that too. It's time for me to get a Mac, and I'm refusing.
This is a fantastic segue. We are jumping quickly into our Purrfect Picks because I think someone happened to pick SvelteKit.
Yes, indeed. So
go ahead.
It's one of our picks, and it's cool. It's been it's like being transported back to when you first started web development, and all you had was a HTML file which you sort of stuck your JavaScript in and your styles in, and this is what SvelteKit is. It's you just get your .svelte file, put everything you need into it, and go. That was
everything is just vanilla with enough sugary syntax to make it easy and fun to code. Like, it's by far my favorite, and SvelteKit is going to take that to another level because you're going to be able to do server side and statically generated pages and all the fun page routing, folder routing.
Yeah.
Does it? So not knowing much Svelte since like the early release myself, does it allow you to get into like kind of some of the crazier routing things? Like with Angular, you have route guards and auth guards and all that fun stuff, or is it pretty like
I think it uses, you can have a layout and you can have a layout reset. So if you go into like a certain layout, you can have a route, and each route can have its own layout, and then
so
you can have a layout dot reset as well.
I don't know enough about Angular to know what those mean, but I mean, I think in each like dynamic route you could have, or each endpoint you could have like the auth section, and that's wrapping something.
Cool. Yeah, I always worry when things are like right back to, is very close to JavaScript, like, oh, but there's all this nice stuff we've worked on for the last 6 years. So.
The sugar syntax that I was talking about, though, in Svelte makes that stuff easy, but it still feels close enough to vanilla that it looks familiar.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. There's a, you can use like before the page loads, you can run your JavaScript before the page loads. So it's like server side, where what's it called, module something, and you can use that to like in the example I did for the SvelteKit blog with GraphCMS, it will evaluate that code before the page loads, and then you can have anything from the server in your static page. So
are you talking about the pre-render?
It's not pre-render.
There's another one in there. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, you can turn off JavaScript completely on each page.
Yeah.
You can make it be statically generated. You can just choose, like, there's 3 or 4 different things that you can pull in that chooses like how you render your page.
And then do you want to dive into, I guess I'll call this almost your first pick. I think I did multiple links for your picks.
Okay, so this is the Joy of Svelte. He's a pick for me for Svelte again. This is, Jesse's made this a while back now, and this is just a really nice introduction to using Svelte. He goes through all the main directives, and you put together like a simple CRUD app, like using the Nobel Prize winners API. Obviously, you can't write or delete anything from the API, but he just go into detail on how you would do that with, this is just plain Svelte rather than SvelteKit.
So this is Svelte 3 then?
Yes.
Okay.
So it goes through the await syntax, all of the directives, if and each.
Which all this stuff still exists in SvelteKit. So this would be good for you just learning like Svelte in general.
Cool. Yeah, it looks like it has a little layout to it. And then
really
your second or third pick?
I mean, second pick, I guess, because I mean, I was talking about SvelteKit, sort of segued.
I threw SvelteKit in there. I forgot. Sorry.
So yeah, I got a podcast. It's called Sideways from the BBC, and this is it's just one of those podcasts that makes you just think a bit, where you're like, oh wow, that's interesting. So there was, I think the first episode I listened to was where the term, God, what is the term? Where you side with your captors, and what have I called it? The Stockholm syndrome. Yep. That was where that was created, and that was a really good take on that. And it's just some great like content where you think, oh wow, that's really cool. Like there's one for this guy called Max Martin, who has written the most number ones in history alongside John Lennon, I think. And like it's any sort of pop hit from the last 20 years, he's probably written it. And it goes into talking about how he peaked, and then you sort of start to peter out, and then you found out just from collaborating with other studios and other people that he was able to get his sort of mojo back. So it's just really good like angles on certain subjects. And this one here, you're looking at the West and the Rest. That goes talks about how we as Westerners think differently to people who are not from the West, and it's it really does make you think. And I thought it was just I'd recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah, I've checked that out. Brittney, you are up next.
My first pick is going back to the GraphCMS blog. I looked through there, and there were a ton of mostly Jamstack, I think, posts. There's an e-commerce starter, so pretty much anything that you want to see or read to get started with GraphCMS. If you're interested to check those out, it's really good stuff in there.
I might have to read through this one, this rich text.
Yeah.
I feel like
Joel's just done that. It's really good. It very much like reminds me of using MDX and defining how you want all of your MDX components to be in, to be passed into the MDX renderer. That's how I would sort of say what that reminds me of. So it's just a cool way to define how you want to go in, how you want to structure each bit of text going into your model.
I like the Gatsby logo next to the GraphCMS logo. The 2 G's there look really cool. Awesome.
Brittney's second pick.
Next pick is Polywork. I just joined yesterday, so I'm not sure exactly what to think about it, but the concept really appealed to me, I guess. So they said the only thing we don't have is likes. We have a belief that likes and reactions turn networks into popularity contests, and this can cause stress, anxiety, and mean people alter how they express themselves. So we want to keep things safe and judgment-free on Polywork. So basically, it's a social media platform that is like LinkedIn met Twitter, without like all the high school popularity contest stuff. So you post and you add tags, but you can't like anything. You can follow people, but I haven't seen like a feed yet for that. I don't know how all that's going to come into play, but it's still kind of becoming a thing right
Is
now.
there comments? So people can still be awful in comments?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing comments.
I feel like likes and dislikes
don't would have to have comments.
I've stopped reading comments for the most part. They just hurt.
I know that is like where people can be mean too, and it's hard. But like they have like an explore the multiverse, and you can find people, and by different badges you can find things. But I don't see comments on here. You can just look at like the tags and search by tags, and then see who posted it and follow them. Oh, it's kind of an interesting concept.
I'll have to join. Maybe we can be friends or connections or whatever they're calling it.
I don't know what you would call it. Yeah, something.
I'm not sure if it's this one where you have to have, I think it's like LinkedIn, where you say, I've worked with this person, and you create a connection that way, I think.
Oh.
I haven't seen any connections. I've just seen the ability to follow people, and I do have a few. Well, they haven't sent me my links yet. You have to request links to send out. So it's invite only right now, but I assume at some point it will be out of beta and anybody will be able to join it. So
I'll like it if it's like open like Twitter, but yet, somehow, I don't know, there's all these closed gardens.
Less spammy than LinkedIn.
Yeah. LinkedIn's so closed out now.
Yeah.
Cool. So my one and only pick, because I am just lazy coming out of holiday, this is called Gun.io, and I keep hearing about it because I've done a few interviews recently, and I'm always like struggling with the fact, like, how do you know what level I'm at, or how, like, all of those things. And what they do is they actually assess you, the site does, and you can kind of place like where you should be at, and that way people that are hiring already know, and they don't have the 7 different iteration of how to gauge a person's like levels, and they can say, this this person does know about cloud, they can support you on AWS, and it immediately finds you the correct job to get into.
Not only do they assess you on your skills, they assess you on your type of person. So then the people that are trying to employ you know like how you are. And I will say I took that yesterday and it nailed me to a T. So
Mine was
I
really
think it's pretty accurate.
It's interesting because like every time I take a disc profile or anything, I'm like so middle on everything that it's tough.
The question seemed kind of weird and repetitive at first, but then by the end, it was like asking me some of the same ones to see which one I ranked higher, basically. And I feel like it nailed me exactly. So
yeah, it's fantastic. If you're looking to place people in the jobs, or if you're looking to get a job, I would suggest it. Check it out. Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I did it last night. After seeing your tweet, actually, I think, Brittney.
They commented on it and they said they like to think of themselves as the Hogwarts sorting hat of the industry.
Brilliant.
That's so great. I don't know which one will be placed on mine. The sorting hat would probably yell at me. Can't you like decide for yourself? Isn't that one of the deals?
That is one of the deals. You can tell which one you want to be in.
You could be Slytherin, but anyways. Awesome. Well, Scott, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you back once you are like the ninja black belt expert on GraphCMS, and I can throw some more hard questions at you at that point. I know you guys have a lot on your roadmap coming up too. So
that's what I was going to say. We'd love to have you back after some of those roadmap things come out and see what's going on over there.
Awesome, brilliant. Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for the hard questions, Alex. I will get you some answers to them as well, and let you know.
Oh, yeah,
because they were great questions.
We appreciate having you. Thanks.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you.
Later.
Bye bye.